Here are a few international horror films that are faintly connected to themes of making monsters. The first is a more literal tale of monster making from South Korea called Project Wolf Hunting. This is ML Miller Fright's Best in Horror Countdown 2022 through 2023. Counting down the best in horror within the window of October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2023.
Number 12.
Project Wolf Hunting, aka NEUGDAESANYANG, was released on February 14th, 2023. It's available on demand from Wellgo USA. It's directed and written by Hongsun Kim. As a gesture of goodwill, the Japanese government extradites a group of dangerous Korean criminals and sends them on a cargo ship from Japan to South Korea so they can be prosecuted in their homeland. But the criminals have other plans. They escape from their shackles and ransack the ship and crew. But unbeknownst to them, the criminals are not the only dangerous cargo aboard the ship. On ice in the bottom level is an experimental super soldier called Alpha. Once awakened, Alpha tears through the ship, not caring whether the soon-to-be squashed person in front of him is criminal, crew, or innocent. Blood is splattered everywhere. And I mean everywhere. While the premise is as ridiculous as it comes, Project Wolf Hunting is one adrenaline-filled and blood-spattered titan of a movie. Everything is over the top with this one. The villains are extra bad, the blood is lawn-sprinklered about in an abundance, it's violent from beginning to end, and this is no short flick. It's just about 2 hours long, and really, the film rarely stops for more than a few seconds to take a breath. If you're looking for nonstop intensity and kinetic mania, Project Wolf Hunting delivers. For about the first hour of Project Wolf Hunting, it feels like Con Air on a cruise ship. The prisoners escape and go on a gruesome rampage through the ship, taking out guards and civilians alike. This is set up, just like Con Air, with an assortment of villains, and of course, one or two who are bad guys, but not as bad as the rest, a la Nicolas Cage's mulleted character in Con Air. While the action is fierce and goppy, I couldn't help but feel how familiar this hour was, as it takes literal pages straight from Con Air, which is actually a great concept, but not the best movie. Project Wolf Hunting is the gory undercousin of Con Air in this first hour that goes the despicable places its American counterpart only hints at. Once the mayhem has occurred and the criminals have taken over the ship, almost like clockwork, at the 1 hour mark, a Universal Soldier-esque experiment escapes from the lower levels of the ship and murders everyone in his path, no matter if it's criminal or hero. And this is a manner that is beyond gnarly. He stomps around the ship barefoot, punching holes through heads and chests, kicking people across the room, and basically tearing chunks out of anything he runs into. Again, we've seen this concept before, but not at this intensity. Think of what Universal Soldier or the police station siege by Arnold might have been, directed by Train to Busan's Sang-Yo Young, or the director of last year's South Korean masterpiece, The Sadness, and then multiply that carnage by 11, and maybe you're getting the level of horror Project Wolf Hunting touches upon. Alpha's wrath is unparalleled. The simple prosthetic of having his eyes stapled together gives Alpha a monstrous and original look. Not sure why his eyes are stapled together, but still, it's a cool look. And though he sees via heat signatures, another lift from an American classic Predator, his wrath is truly epic. The way the blood sprays in all directions is inspired, reminiscent more of the goriest of anime than anything else. The performance ranges from cartoonish to decent. The lead bad guy, Park Jong-doo, played by Seo In-guk, stands out as the evilest of the criminals being transferred, but he really is the mustache-twirling, aren't I so evil type of villain with no real redeemable qualities. In one sense, he's truly terrifying, but in another, he's playing a one-dimensional villain that simply relishes in the chaos he unleashes. Gui Hwa Choi, who plays the unstoppable Alpha, gives a horrifying physical performance with no lines, just simple brutality. These are the two roles that stood out most to me. The problem with Project Wolf Hunting is that everyone else feels almost like simple bowling pins ready to topple at the hands of the inmates, the monster, or the police. This film establishes a huge cast at the beginning, then kills them off pretty nonchalantly without giving them some kind of moment before falling when many American films would have done so. This isn't a complaint, It adds to the unpredictability and the danger of it all. It's just that many times I had to stop and figure out, wait, is that guy who just bit it a criminal or a cop or a crew member? I wasn't sure. They're all kind of run together, and I'm sure it's because I was distracted half the time trying to read the subtitles. That said, everyone's death is monumentally grotesque, each meeting their maker in sticky, disturbing, splattery, and ugly ways. The gore is ceiling to floor, with no one escaping being sprayed upon as the death is doled out. While there have been gory films from overseas in the past, particularly South Korea, this one takes the blood-soaked cake in making the red stuff flow. One of the things worth pointing out is how this film sounds. Because everything takes place inside a metal cargo ship, everything clangs and bangs. Alpha's footsteps bang like a shotgun blast as he runs bare feet across the metal flooring. Guns echo through the halls. Gore splatters like a garden hose with your thumb across the end, and then ends in disturbingly pleasant droplets like a spring rain fading away. On top of it, the action is frenetic, and the camera is often cluttered with all kinds of people, pipes, and machinery. This gives off an especially confusing and cluttered look to the film, but it only adds to the anxiety of this bucket of feeding piranhas of a movie. It all culminates in an epically gory superhero smackdown with little dialogue and horrifying effects aplenty, as more superhuman experiments reveal themselves. Sure, if you're into the current elevated style of horror and sip your cup of warm blood with a raised pinky, you're going to be put off by Project Wolf Hunting. It might be just seen as pointless violence for violence sake, but I don't care. Yes, the premise is over the top and sometimes kind of dumb, but it's the type of big, bloody action that I love to see. I highly recommend this to those with a taste of blood, gore, and violence and are not afraid to get their hands dirty watching it. Today's worth noting is from Mexico, and the monster making is a much more subtle kind of theme. The Hole in the Fence shows how evil can be taught to young so they can grow up to be the worst kind of monsters. The Hole in the Fence, aka El Hoyo en la Cerca, was released on May 26, 2023. It's available on demand from Altered Innocence. It's directed by Joaquin Del Paso and written by Joaquin Del Paso and Lucy Pollack. A religious summer camp for privileged youth begins with excited boys looking forward to fun and adventure. The staff works hard to teach the boys discipline, honor, and pride, encouraging them to work together through performances, daily prayer, and games. But boys will be boys, and while the main goal of the camp is to help out the local villagers, it turns out to be a matter of survival of the fittest, where those who are different are secluded and tormented right under the noses of the pious counselors. Tensions escalate between different fractions of the camp and rise to a fever pitch during a game of capture the flag taken all too seriously. While it's not as controversial, The Hole in the Fence is as much a horror film as Larry Clark's 1995 film Kids. Now, it's not as taboo-breaking as Kids was, but it does focus on the very disturbing interactions between kids, interactions that are very different than what are usually depicted in media today. The horror comes from the cruel way the kids treat one another and the dangers they face, even at a seemingly harmless place as a religious summer camp. While things do get very Lord of the Flies-like towards the end, the adult counselors are present and provide their own set of threats towards these impressionable children. The climax, where the kids go wild and start attacking one another, serves as a result of what the counselors have taught them in their lessons. This behavior is encouraged by those they look up to, which seems to be the main point of The Hole in the Fence. That corruption, prejudice, homophobia, abuse, violence, and other terrible traits are a result of the leaders of this societal structure these kids find themselves being in. The camp is for privileged children, but also seems to open their doors to those who aren't as fortunate. This causes a wedge in the group as well. This is clearly shown by following one child whose skin is darker than the others, who desperately tries to conform but is singled out time and time again. And being singled out is the worst thing you can do at this camp, as it leaves you vulnerable to gang violence from the rest of the kids, as well as making him the prime target for some of the predators that make up the adults of the camp. Through some very subtle dialogue, we find out that all kinds of abuse and wrongdoings have occurred in the past, and it's seen as a rite of passage for most involved, as well as a case of survival of the fittest for the weak. Thematically, there's a lot going on in The Hole in the Fence. The camp is an allegory for what's wrong with the world outside of it, When one of the rich kids is hurt, his parents take a helicopter in and whisk him away, but the parents who have gone through the camp before seem to look back on it with fond memories, as if the horrifying lesson learned at the camp has helped shape the future of so many people in the upper crust and suggesting how corrupt that class level can be. These teachings have been going on for generations, and as the kids settle back into their own lives towards the end, it seems the camp will live on to serve future generations with the same warped views. It's the same kind of class commentary that you found at the end of Infinity Pool. This is where the true horror in The Hole in the Fence lies. Don't go into this Mexican film thinking it's going to be something like Them or Eden Lake or even Children of the Damned. The Hole in the Fence is a very dark drama shining a spotlight on institutional failures in what we teach our children. It focuses on very uncomfortable issues and is not for those easily triggered. But the film does a fantastic job of trying to teach the audience about what children are taught when the parents are not around and how that can shape them into true monsters under the wrong influence. As always, feel free to agree, disagree, or how about you play along at home and give me your own picks for your favorite horror movies. It's October, so let's talk horror. Come back tomorrow for the next level in the Best in Horror Countdown. Be sure to hit all of those pertinent bells and whistles down below, and you'll never miss a post. Happy Halloween, folks.